Hello and welcome to Behind the Fender Podcast by the Short Map Players Tour. My name is McCrea. I'm one of the newly appointed SMPT directors. If you've not heard of the Short Map Players Tour, we are a short map bowls company who organise and run short map bowls events across the UK and Europe to promote the game of short map bowls. All our events are open to anyone to play in, and for more information, head over to our website, shortmapplayerstour.com. Hello and welcome to Behind the Fender Podcast for our third episode, and I'm joined by Craig Burgess and Simon Pridham as always. How are you both?
Yeah, well, good mate, very good, thank you.
Yeah, even fellas, how are you all doing?
Good.
Yeah, cold.
It's getting cold now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, into the main part of the season now, so it's going to start to dip off now.
And I mean, we've had a long break since the last podcast. I think the last one was after February. It was around March time, I think. So we've got a lot to catch up on. The season, the previous season ended, flying by. Now we're halfway through this one.
Yeah, a lot to talk about, I suppose. End of season events and the awards, and obviously we're now into this season. So yeah, it's been good so far.
Yeah, it's felt like a long summer, but actually, with the season well underway now, it's went into it now and approaching the third ranking event as well, which is all good.
So let's kick off with our end of season finale from last season in April at the World Masters in Belfast, and that saw Alex Kley claim his third SMPT singles title, and was pretty unbelievable on that Sunday, and managed to sort of navigate his way out of a tricky group as well. But that was also our biggest event we have had since following COVID, so it was a big test for us as well, the team, to navigate all of the players, but it all ran really well.
And from Alex's perspective, I mean, unbelievable to go and do what he did. We were talking about it beforehand. Could he do it, and could he keep this run that he was on at the time going, and to go over there and to win that? I think it's probably the best performances from an individual in terms of what that they've won in a sort of 12 to 18 month period. We talked about it again before the World Masters, but certainly I think he's established himself as that's got to be in what I've seen in all the years I've been playing, the biggest run of winning big comps from anybody. And I doubt that would be matched or bettered, but who knows? Who knows? But I can't see it.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
It just shows the quality of the field, doesn't it? I think the quality of the field, Craig, you went into the plate and then put a run together, and there was a lot of really good players in that. Simon, you also yourself, you had a really good run last 16.
But yeah, really enjoyed it and played okay. Got a couple of draws in my group, actually. First time I've had draws playing in the singles events, but yeah, managed to, I think I topped the group. So yeah, but then into the knockouts, I think I got a bye and then played Kenneth Howe first. That must have been on, I don't know, last 64, I suppose that probably was. Kenneth, obviously a really good player, plays for the Welsh team. We had a good game, but managed to get my game up to where it's not been for quite a while, so that was good. And then obviously came up against Peter Roberts, who is world number 2 at the moment, something like that.
Yep.
Managed, and we had a really good game actually, very tactical. I just sort of got in front a bit there and was able to sort of control it pretty well. And there was the end that I sort of won the match on. I just positioned bowls and made it difficult for him to score. But I was really happy to win that game because I wasn't expecting to, and he had beat me at the UK Open at the start of the season. So that was good. And then obviously drew Mr. Andrew Leckie in the last 16. And I think he beat me by about 5 in the end. But again, another close game. And I was really happy with how I played. I have no expectations sort of this time of my life playing that because I don't play that often. So I was absolutely made up to make the last 16. So yeah, really happy with that.
Shows there's still life in the old dog yet, Simon.
Yeah, well, yeah, I keep trying, mate. Always will do.
We've given you a quick overview. Why don't we hear from the winner himself, where we had a chat with Alex Kley. Okay, so I'm joined by Alex Kley, who is the Open Singles, British Isles, World Double National and 3-time SMPT Singles Champion, most recently with the World Masters 2023 Champion. How does all that sound, Alex?
It's kind of nuts when you think about it. If you told me about last year, I don't know what I don't know what I'd say to you. To be honest with you, I'd think I'd just walk off. But at the time, I just played the tournaments as they came on and got a result. I was like, oh, that's okay. But yeah, it's kind of nuts when you think about it like that.
Yeah, and I mean, some people have said it's probably the most success any player's had in a 12-month period. I mean, I certainly can't remember of anyone either, but just the significant amount of high-level, high-profile tournaments, including our own, winning them tournament after tournament. I mean, just how do you keep on winning? That's the key question everyone wants to know.
I don't have a clue, to be honest with you, but I kind of just took each game at a time. But what I would say is like people around you. Like I had some really close people around me, like Sam Harvey, who's kind of like taught me how to bowl, and he's always been by my side. And it's really nice to like see someone by your side just go keep going. So like I appreciate all the boys and all the England boys who supported me for all these tournaments. Because without them, I know I wouldn't do anything like that.
Okay, so let's take a look at your route at the World Masters back in April. Now, you navigated your group well, top that, and then you got through Krista, Kieran, Hannah, Gary, Ian, and then Adam ranking in the final. I mean, that's some serious Irish talent in the latter stages along the way, round by round, to manoeuvre past.
Yeah, the weird thing about it is, in the group stages, we played the pairs the day before. I was playing with Sam, funny enough, and like my drawing wasn't there, and I was like, "What? I'm not going to go any further in this tournament if I'm not drawing well. I need to change my game." And I played Krista, and I was like, "I'll just have a go," and it worked. And I was like, "Oh," but playing like top tier opposition, you have to like pull your game up. And that's what I tried, and luckily for me, it worked. I know in that final, Adam was like, he didn't have the luck of agreeing what I kind of had, and it was going with me, so I was very fortunate with that.
Yeah, and if we look at the way you play tactically, and that was on show certainly at the English Masters and the other high-profile tournaments, just talk us through tactically how you play it, and how would you best describe it?
So the way I kind of look at it is like, if I'm going first, I and I'm not feeling comfortable with my draw, I would always go for that jack. But I'm not playing the jack really, really heavy. I'm almost playing my bowl, and it's only just touching the fender. But if I get the jack full, at Irish in the World Masters, like the jack was hitting the ditch, and my bowl was still staying live, and it put them into two minds. Do I play the bowl away? Do I draw in front of the jack? And it's almost a wasting a bowl. So I let them waste a bowl, or play their shot they want to play, and I just try and wrap my bowls around near the jack. Really, it was all in the moment, really, for me. Just play what I see. If I miss the jack, I'll probably go again, because I've got 4 bowls. And for me, I always think my third bowl's the best to save me if I miss.
Yeah, no, I mean that was certainly on show. You were, like you're saying, just sort of dragging that jack in the ditch, keeping your bowl live. So you've always got that as another option, and then you can either like you say, pile them in for counts and put serious pressure under your opponent, or as you say, have another shot. Say your first one misses, you then adjust. And that seemed to, like you say, the third bowl. You've done a few of those third bowl savers when the end wasn't quite going right, to then nick the end, and then you can get back to doing it once again.
Yeah, exactly that. Like, literally, if you're a few down, you're just thinking, I can't waste any more bowls at this. So like, you just try to wrap your bowls around and make it difficult for them.
And what do you think is the key to winning an SMPT event?
Do you know what? I personally think it's determination, and like you just have to keep going. Like even when you're down, just keep wrapping those bowls around the jack, or just playing the unusual shot sometimes. And it's a long day, so you have to be quite fit to play on these. But it works for me because I like playing long games, just like throughout the whole day. Just keep going. So these tournaments are really hard to win one.
And also, we couldn't forget the Players' Player of the Season you won last year as well. So how did that feel to win that as well?
It's always nice to be recognised from like the players on the tour. And the thing is with this tour, like I love it to bits. Like you can go away like to the next tournament to Norway, and like you can speak to anyone, they'll talk back to you. It's really nice, and even now I'm getting players come up to me saying congratulations from last season. And you just go back and you just look back and you go, wow, like I really appreciate this. So it's really nice to have from the players to be, them being appreciative for me and all that.
And I was looking at your record, and your best record tournament percentage wise is obviously the World Masters and English Masters, both you've won. But taking the victories to one side, why do you think that's your best event?
Do you know what? I always like the harder tournaments. I don't know what it is. And the venues as well, they play a big part. If I find the lines, and because mostly the mats at these venues are pretty much the same, if you find the lines and the speed, I just remember it really well. And lucky enough, I have. And I just love it. Like these venues and the hard tournaments, you're up for a good fight.
And of all of the tournaments you have won, and I know there's a lot to pick from, what do you think's the hardest to win out of all of those achievements you've done to date?
I'll tell you what, like the World Masters, like the caliber of players what are in that is ridiculous. Like I got on the mat not knowing my next opponent, but I know they're going to be good. I think I went from, what was it, Hannah Cochran, and then I had Gary McNabb, and I'm like, okay, this can't get any worse, but it does because you play like Adam, Ian Hobson. It's like, wow.
Yeah, and so you're currently ranked number 20 in our events in the world and 62 in the Order of Merit. What's the aim for the season coming?
Well, lucky enough, I've had a few sponsors to allow me to like go to more of these events for me, because I've never been to Norway. I know it's a hard floor, which I don't usually play. So I'm going to try and play in as many tournaments as I can to get my ranking up. Possibly, hopefully, qualify for the World Cup, which I would love to do again. But we'll have to see. And a big shout out to Belltops for allowing me to have that money.
And what's your favourite SMPT event and why?
That's a hard one. Personally, it probably has to be the World Masters, because like the amount of people there, you got a bar there, and everyone just gets along, have a drink afterwards. The hotel's only down the road, and when you go back to the hotel, everyone's talking to you, having a drink, having a laugh. That's the main thing for me, having a good time.
And what would you say to bowlers who have not played in an SMPT event before?
I'd say come along. Like you're missing out, because it's a great way to learn to play bowls. Because without me coming to the SMPT when I first started playing bowls, I wouldn't be the player I am today. Because you learn so much from other players. I remember my first ever game actually. It was against Suzanne Finley. I had these aero defiance bowls, which are the straightest things I've ever seen before. And she turned around to me and she goes, "They're so straight, you should not be playing with them." I just started laughing. But it's people like that, like they help you. And And now I'm playing with a lignoid, the bendest bowl you can get. And it just shows that people do help, and they're always there to give a hand and help.
And on to Norway. What's the aim for you going into that tournament? One you've not played in before. The surface totally different, so it's going to be quite a challenge.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, I'm not taking the lignoids, so I'm I'm going to ask someone to borrow some bowls off them. I'm thinking an ace, but we'll have to see. So and plus it's hard floor, so I haven't really played any hard floor, so it's going to be very, very interesting for me, and it's going to be a bit of fun, I reckon.
And just lastly, I saw on social media and at the Nationals that you got a very nice photo of you and also former double national singles champion Gary Brown. Just talk to us how that come about and that conversation.
So I think it was Steve McAllister. I'm pretty sure it was Steve McAllister. He came up to me and goes, "Oh, the only other person to do a double is Gary Brown." And that was I won the event, and I've gone, "Is he still here?" Because he came up to watch the singles, and I was like, "I tell you what, it would be brilliant to get a picture." And I've played Gary at the St George's, and there's a bit of a funny story on that. And we actually played each other. He's a great bloke, and I went up to Gary. I've gone, "Gary, can we have a picture?" Like, because made a bit of history, and he was, "Yeah, certainly." So I was lucky enough to get a picture of Gary, great bloke, and yeah, it went all over social media. Next thing I know, it was in like a little paper, and I've gone, "Oh, God, blimey hell."
Great touch. And thanks a lot, Alex, for joining us, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much, Mitch.
Really good interview there from Alex. I mean, he's collecting some medal haul over the last, as you said, Craig, 18 months.
I think it's difficult to keep that. So it's almost in his mind. I think when you won the World Masters, that's got to be. It's almost like you draw a line at that point. How do you keep on going? And I think obviously the UK Open, when we come, we'll probably touch on that. But that's probably the first event back. And I always think with the UK Open, it's one of those events that there's probably 20 or 30 players that have a really good opportunity of winning that, because it's so early in the season, and not many players have been playing much competitive stuff over the course of the summer.
Yeah.
So for him to come back and then to try and recapture that form from April back in August, it's very difficult to do so. So he was always going to be up against it from the UK Open, and I'm not saying the UK Open is a harder event to win the World Masters, far from it. I think just when you've done what he's done and the events that he's won, when you win that, there's got to be a mindset as well. And you talked about that kind of determination and mindset that you need to have. There's almost kind of like, I've done what I'd set out to do, and then you draw a line under that, and you have to try and start again. And it's difficult to pick yourself back up again and do that, particularly with the break-in during the summer months.
And I think following that, he was always going to have a target on his back where players are like, we're not gonna let you keep winning.
So, yeah, I see. Funny you saying that, because I was thinking that myself, and that to me was quite evident in his very first game coming back to our events for the season in the UK Open. He was on the show mat and he was playing Jonathan Payne, who we know is a great player, but you could see Jonathan was very much up for that match, and he ended up winning it. So yeah, you do tend to pick up that, as you say, you get a target on your back. Same with probably Gary McNabb, who has won 2 or 3 competitions and is playing very well at the moment. And I think you get that sort of situation of players are up for beating him, but probably a little bit scared because they know they're playing so well. But if it's anyone like me, you're desperate to try and beat them, because what a scalp it is to beat a player who's playing so well like that.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk and discussion around Alex's sort of tactics or way of playing, however you want to put it. I felt it is, although we see quite a bit of it in England in other tournaments, it's still his own unique style. I still find it's still different, even though running a jack in the ditch, we see that played by very well by Northern players, but I still feel like Alex's one is still his own style. I feel like it's still slightly different, isn't it?
Yeah.
The thing with the way that Alex plays it as well, he doesn't always, his bowl doesn't always go in a ditch as well.
Yeah.
So in some people's, it's almost like it just causes some people, for whatever reason, don't know what to do, and do you go to try and beat Alex's bowl that's still live? Sometimes the jack's even live still, and you have an opportunity to take the jack in, and you miss that. It's almost like the way that he plays it's almost screws with the other players' kind of tactics as well, and it's worked very well. So an interesting talk, you mentioned Gary, and I was chatting to Gary during the UK Open, and he was saying that he's only got a few players. And I won't go into too much details. I don't think Gary probably would want it shared, but there's only a handful of players that he has an actual tactic for. Most other players, I think he's probably up there, Gary, with the best in the world. He's up there, the best in the world. So, but he only has a game plan for 2 or 3 players. The rest he kind of just feels that he can beat just by being on the mat, and so he should, with the way that he approaches and the way he plays. But Alex is one of those players where he has a certain game plan that he'll use when he goes to play against him. So that's to Alex's credit, I think. But yeah, there's very few players, I think, in the world that you say you haven't got a game plan for, and the way Alex plays the game, it's he's a very good draw player as well. So he's got every shot in the book, basically, as all the top players do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he met Gary as well in the last stage. I think it's a quarter-final.
Yeah, quarter-final, 9-4, I think he beat Gary.
So that was a good match-up.
I mean, you look at his results from that World Masters, and if you sort of think, they all look pretty straightforward. Even, the Gary McNabb, Ian Hobson, 2 cracking players. He controlled those games, really. I think what probably decided, as you said about him saying it was on the Sunday morning, it's 2 group games. So he played Olav. I remember filming that game on the show mat, and Olav gave him a real game. And Alex won by, I think, 3-8-5, something like that. And he just struggled a little bit in that game to overcome Olav. So he was definitely right in saying that he had to do something, and he knew he would get stronger players, obviously, the further you go. So switching that tactic worked perfectly for him.
And also he mentioned around that this is his hardest event to win that he had over that period.
And no, it is good. It is good. And for him to say that the World Masters was the hardest one to win out of all of those that he won, is again a testament to that event. I think it is definitely the hardest singles competition, I think, to win. When you look at all of the other ones that there are, and even look at our events as well, it's got to be the hardest one. It's got the biggest field, and it's at the time of year it happens as well. With that end of season, it's all gearing towards that end of season period. So yeah, it's testament to Alex again to going on and winning it.
Okay, so that was the end of season for our singles events, but we did have an event in between that where we popped over to Belgium for for the pairs tournament that we had over in Herentals, which was a nice return for us to do.
Always enjoy the trips to Belgium and Herentals, Jonathan's club, and where we've been so many times, and I think we've all actually got history there, haven't we? We think back to the World Championships over the years where we've been, all 3 of us have been fortunate enough to do well there, and it is just a nice town. Obviously the beer is fantastic. I enjoy the beer, but the just the vibe there, the mats going, it's almost going back home for Simon and I, when we think back to what the Nationals used to be over in England.
Mm-hmm.
Norway's very similar as well, actually, with that. But it was a really good event. Good sort of following support again. Went over to that one. We appreciate it. It's not a ranking event. It's obviously not one of our singles events, but it's always good to take that pairs event to places like Belgium, where we used to have a ranking singles event. Really good weekend, and then again I've quite enjoyed the sort of the playing side of it as well, which was great.
Before you could blink, the new season started in August, and we had the World Cup return where Ireland were successful for the 6th time, England runners up. And Craig, that was your first World Cup as a player in the event. Just give us your take on it. your experience?
Yeah, good. I mean, when we first come up with the concept of the World Cup, it was very much looking at other sports and what they did, and darts was certainly in our mind, I think, when we were looking to put it together. But it was good to be on the other side, the flip side this time, and actually playing in one. And yeah, it was actually I actually found it was the only time since coming back and playing sort of semi-competitive me back again. Being a bit nervous because you were playing for 3 other people as well. So that was quite good, and I think that was quite evident early on. I just didn't feel, and I lost to Kevin in my first game at England Scotland, and Kevin had beaten me already in earlier in the season, English Masters I think it was, and yeah, it was quite nerve wracking. And then I think I had a quite comfortable game against Luke from Belgium, and then had a really good game against Jonas, and I felt really comfortable at that point, I think, in the way I was playing. And again, semi-final against Wales, I think we had a good win there. You're always going to be up against it against Ireland in the final, and Mark was just class as you would expect. But again, I think the score was pretty close in the final. But again, yeah, that's such a good team from Ireland. You're always going to be up against it. But no, I guess from playing in the World Cup, it's definitely a great event to play in, and hopefully that's the goal this year to do that. And I'm sure that's many people's goal is to qualify for their country for the World Cup. And it's great to hear so many people talking about that. And I think we were just speaking to on a different subject to a few other people recently, and I think Mark Beattie was mentioning about the amount of people talking about the ranking points and the World Cup spots. So it's nice to hear that people are talking about it and really want to get on the team.
And then we move on to the UK Open on the return of that, where Alastair McCrea won his first SMPT title. And I always find the UK Open's just one of them. It could literally, I mean, most of them, anyone can win our events, but it's always that one where it is usually a first time winner. That event, it just seems to be that one where it's very open, and it's whoever performs on that weekend.
Yeah, it was a good event. Though I was a bit gutted I couldn't make that weekend actually, because obviously I was due to play in the World Cup as well. Yeah, just watching it from back home when I had the chance to see some games, it was, you didn't know who to put your money on. It was open as you said, and as you rightly said, it is probably our most open event because of it being so early in the season. But Alastair played really well actually, and deserved his victory.
Yeah, again, I think because it's so early in the season, it is definitely one of those events that anyone, I think, would fancy. Anyone that's playing decent would fancy the chances of that. And no, it was a great win for Alastair there. And I played Gary in the semi-final, and I'd played so well up until that point, and I just didn't, in that semi-final, I just didn't hit a running. But if I could play a running bowl in that semi-final, I'd be dangerous. I just couldn't find it at all. But fair play to Gary. He played very well to put me under the pressure to have to play the running shots. But no, in the final, Alastair played very, very well, and again just changed the game up against Gary, I think, and just a very good performance from Alastair, stopping him from picking up the title.
I was going to say, how could we forget your bronze medal, Craig? I mean, Simon's telling me please don't say it, Mitch, but I suppose we've got to mention it. So it was a good successive weekend for you as well.
Again, I think the having played in the World Cup on the Friday, I just felt I hit the ground running on the Saturday. So for anyone out there, I think if you do qualify for that World Cup, use it as well for that, because I certainly found that whilst I'd maybe not started the World Cup, in playing as well as I know I can, I certainly felt that I played. I had Errol in my first game in the UK Open on the Saturday, and played very well and won quite comfortably. But Errol went on, and I think he might have even got to the last 16 or even quarter final. He was playing very well after that himself. So just a couple of games there. Neil Davidson, I remember having quite a comfortable win against him. Neil's a tricky player to play against, very good singles player. Daffyd in the Daffyd Howe in the last 64. I think I was so focused that game and sort of blew him off the mat really. Not that he wasn't playing bad. I felt like my first bowl was just so key. And then that's a good tussles against Nigel Charles and Steve Roberts, and the game actually I shouldn't have beaten Ed again, and sorry Ed, but just I don't know what it is. I've got something over you. I've just over the years at the times that we played against each other, but I think I was 10-1 down against Ed, and I came back on 1-11-10, and I was dead and buried really in the quarter final, but managed to pick up a big 4 on the last end to win by 1. So yeah, sometimes you think when you get a game like that in the quarter final, it's your name could be on it, but when you come up against someone like Gary in the semi final, it's always going to be very difficult.
And let's hear from the man himself, our UK Open champion for 2023, Alastair McCrea. I'm joined by UK Open 2023 champion Alastair McCrea. Alastair, how does it feel to win your first SMPT singles title?
Yeah, it feels absolutely great. It was a bit of a surprise, really, as I didn't really go into the competition with any expectations. I just went to play some bowls and then thankfully had a really good tournament.
So let's take a look at that tournament. First off, you had a tough group. You had Damien McCabe, and he went and won the plate. You had Mark Beattie as well, and John Gillings, who played in the World Cup the day before. So, but you seem to make light work of that by topping your group.
Well, again, I didn't really think I was going to. I think I was speaking to you and a few others before the tournament. I think, did John Pajak play in the World Cup as well?
Yeah, and
John,
so
so I think I had 3 World Cup players who had all played the day before. I think I tried to turn up a bit early because it came up Saturday morning. I had a bit of a roll up and thought it felt terrible out of my hand. I couldn't get the weight or the line. Usually it's one or the other. So I think I played for about 15 minutes and then just went and sat down and thought there's no point. Then thankfully I played against John Gillings and it just actually, got off to a good start and just kept building. And then I knew I had Mark Beattie coming in the second game. I think it was on the show mat as well. So I think I just thought I'll try and keep it tight. And just probably my best bowls nearly I played for the whole weekend was that second match. Damien hadn't played before, but knew being from Ireland he was going to be a decent bowler. Again, had a good result against him, and then the last 2 group games kind of cruised through. Always, when I go to SMPT, I always seem to do relatively well in the groups. So I was always confident of getting through. And then you just sort of hope for a nice draw and hope you sort of get the rub of the green in the knockouts, really.
Yeah, so let's look at them knockout games. So you had Don McNamara, Arwell Morgan, Errol Marina, Jorgen Carlson, and then AJ in the semis to get through. Which one of those do you think was your toughest game in those knockout games?
I found Errol the toughest in a strange sort of way. I've always sort of got, I think in all the SMPTs I've played in, I've pretty much got to the last 16 sort of quarter final a few times. So I don't know. I find Errol just very tricky. I find that game, very hard. I mean, they were all difficult. What knockout bowls. Don McNamara I've played lots of times. You know what he's like. He's very tricky to bowl against. Arwell I've played a couple of times. Again, very experienced bowler. Jorgen I've played once before, and again, you always know you're in for a tough game.
And then moving on to the final, coming up against Gary McNabb, who's won numerous SMPT titles. I mean, early on you went 3-0 down. Do you think getting that end after then, just to settle you down into the final, do you think that was the thing to settle you in and then come through and take the lead and take the victory 11-6 in the end?
Yeah, I knew it was always going to be tough at the start, probably the final, because I could see how relaxed Gary was, even just having a few words with him, maybe the people didn't see on the camera. You could tell he was, been there many times, and I just knew I wanted to get, point on the board, kind of settle into it, even, pick up a few, and then sort of see where it goes from there. But yeah, he got off to a flyer, really. I think it was 4-1 at one point. and then I picked up, like you say, a 3. And yeah, just kept going from there, really. I thought once I start getting into this, I can't let him back in. I'm going to need to keep on, building shots, keeping my confidence up, and not get knocked back. Because I knew if I let him back in, he just bulldozed back through.
Did you feel nervous at all going into that? I mean, I even watched the winning bowl that you made. We had to draw to the line, and you still seem pretty calm. Well, both players, both of you and Gary did.
Yeah, no, I wasn't overly nervous. I probably would have thought if, yeah, like you say, it's sort of a drawing to not the line, but it was I had to, get a good deep draw in, to the back to win it. You would have thought I would have been somewhat nervous, but I think when you're there in the moment, you just go into autopilot nearly. And once you start thinking about bowls and thinking about shots, I sometimes think that's nearly the worst thing you can do.
What do you think is the most difficult thing to overcome in an SMPT event?
I always think it's the gap, especially when you go into the cup. So when you play on the Sunday, you finish the group, and especially if you finish well, you've often you play your last group game, which I was on first on the Sunday, so the first session, and then you've got a large gap, and it's then just, I think once you get that next game and the second and third game after that, it's just trying to stay, keep your focus and sort of keep your confidence high with, having maybe a 2 or 3 hour gap in between.
And how do you manage that as a player? What do you do that's sort of keeps you focused, or maybe even take yourself away out of the environment and try and just sort of forget about the long break? Because sometimes it can play on a lot of players' minds, that gap, and then that's easy to get early.
Yeah, I think actually I spoke to Gary about it. Actually, I said the gap always just tends to throw me a little bit, and I think Gary said to me something along the lines of, this is, he likes the gap and he likes getting into the next, to the next session. Things that I try and do, I sort of try and interact with other people, try and have a chat, try and just keep as relaxed as possible, try not to think too much about it. I don't really take any notice of who I'm playing next. Usually someone tells me, but I usually don't go, and I just sort of think, well, whoever comes next, it's the complete luck of the draw. But I do, just try and relax as much as possible.
And what's your favourite SMPT event to play in, and why?
I mean, I've always liked the August Open, just because it's it feels always to me like the start of the season. You get to see a lot of people who maybe you haven't seen in a good few months. And SMPT, it's good to win, but for me, it's always about meeting people from numerous different countries that maybe I haven't seen since SMPT or another bowling event. So it's always good to catch up. But my favourite event is probably the SMPT 4s, just because of the quality of the 4s you play against and the length of the day. It's like nothing else you'd ever play in bowls.
And what do you like most about SMPT events? Probably not the long days.
I don't mind long days, as long as you're winning. It's okay. I mean, I like most about. I like the way they run. I like the quality of players that attend them. I like sort of the friendliness of the events, and just having a good couple of days bowls with very little distractions elsewhere.
And where does this rank in your bowling achievements, this singles title?
I mean, singles wise, it's got to be up there with one of the sort of top achievements singles wise. And it's definitely, it's always nice to sort of win. As much as I enjoy winning with a group, it's always nice to win something by yourself and just think, look, I did this myself, and you can feel sort of proud of the achievement.
And looking ahead for the rest of the season, looking forward, what's your plans on planning future events this season, or any other achievements that you or targets that you're looking at?
We've got a few county comps coming up shortly. Looking to play hopefully in York if I can get in. I think I'm on the reserve list for that. I'm entered in February in the Open, and then I'll see where it goes from there, really. Then it gets into the business end of the season. So hopefully by then I'll have something in the bag that I've qualified for nationals, or I'm, on the road to something good, hopefully, to end the season.
Brilliant. Well, good luck for the rest of the season, and thanks very much for talking to us.
Thanks, Mitch.
Now, just listening to Alastair there, he said a few things around. He turned up early on Saturday to have a practice, and he basically had a terrible time. He's the kind of guy that he can focus on the really tough games, with or without practice. And yet, he played Mark in the group. He had a very tough road. And interesting, as you were saying earlier, Craig, his hardest match in the knockout games, obviously each one was, but he said the toughest one was against Errol. So, and I think that's where Alastair met him in the last 16 in a good run.
I'd like to say it was a bit of coaching, because Errol did ask me after our first game what he was doing wrong, or what he should change, and I was just telling him about get his first bowl working for him, and stop chasing the jack if someone gets on it, basically. And yeah, every match that we came off afterwards, he kept coming up. How are you getting on? Yeah, I'm good. How about you? Yeah, I'm chasing you. So, no, really nice guy, Errol, and he certainly turned his results around after that first game.
It seems to be the August one just could throw up anything. It's like one of them.
You do get some crazy things happen, and tends to be that, especially the UK Open, I think.
Well, Craig made the semi-final, so crazy things.
Crazy stuff happens.
Yeah. That's a great example. No, but Alice played really well.
Yeah, it was a great victory. I mean, he is such a steady bowler, and like you said, it did make me laugh when he said about the Saturday morning, but that's what good players can do. You can, for all your practice, it's always on the day, and he went away, relaxed a bit, and he said, he likes the events because you can talk to people, and just it feels a bit more relaxed, even though the competition is hard. And obviously, he just found it when he got on the mat. So, yeah, brilliant performance, really well done.
Okay, well, we'll move swiftly on because we've got loads more to talk about. The Irish Open, moving on to the Irish Open. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't there, but another victory for Gary McNabb for his 6th singles title.
Yeah, he's making a habit of winning stuff. I mean, the one thing we didn't obviously mention just a little bit earlier was the Belfast Open pairs that he won with Rachel prior to the World Masters. Then obviously made the final in the UK Open, and then wins on home soil back in September. So, playing really, really well.
Yeah, I think between him and Alex, just the things that they've been winning recently, and getting into the finals, and just that consistency. It's that consistency and getting a run to the final. Whilst it's impossible to win every match, they just tend to get through those games, those close matches, and have an answer for it. So no, it was again a good competition in Belfast. I think. Again, had so many players that could pick that trophy up at the end of the weekend, but for someone again like Gary to come through that and to pick it up again is unbelievable, which I think puts him up there as well. Just in terms of what he's won on the tour, unbelievable.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
he
it
is
was
current world number one as well.
Yeah,
Does it stand?
yeah. I mean, his knockout games were pretty tough, actually, and he had maybe maybe 3 or 4 of those games were won by 1 or 2 shots. So he had to battle hard. I mean, even that final against Declan, that's the furthest Declan had got in one of our events, certainly. And he gave Gary such a game in that final. It was really good to watch, and that could have gone either way. Close win against Lawrence Moffat, Raymond Stubbs, even William Parkinson. In the last 32, I think he won that by 1. So, testament to his you always get a little bit of luck, don't you, here and then. You've got to take that when you get it. But it's just testament to his consistency that he manages to get through these games.
It's getting through those tight games,
Yeah.
those ones that the amount of games that I've ended up losing by one shot, and you feel bloody, but he wins those games
Yeah.
that are won, and that's the difference. And quick shout out to Darren Brown. I know he won't like it, but he did beat Gary.
He did
in the group,
Yeah.
and I think at that point was looking good to get through as well, but that wasn't able to, I think, sustain that. And sometimes it is difficult when you win a game like that to keep that up. Then, and again, it almost paints a bit of a target on your back, especially in the group, because I was looking across and go, "What? You just beating Gary?" So, no, it's again, just testament to you look at that. You beat Raymond Stubbs and Lawrence Moffat back to back there, leading up from the last 16 quarter final. Two very, very good players. And let's say that final was literally, Declan I thought had it at one point, and then Gary managed to get over the line. So,
and let's look ahead to our event that kicks off very, very soon, the Nordic Caravan Norwegian Open for 2023 in Skien. It's going to be an exciting event. It's one of our biggest events we've had over in Norway, I believe, as in players wise.
Yeah.
I think what's good as well, because it's we play it on a hard floor. We mentioned it earlier. It's a different game as well. So it is. I keep saying it's like the tennis with the majors there, where it's different surfaces that you play on. So with the mats being slightly slower in Belfast, and probably suiting the players from Ireland, and in some respects probably Wales. But when we come to Norway, it's a whole different kettle of fish for me. It's a completely different thing. It's what Simon and I kind of grew up on playing in England. Really, the mats we used to play on, quick 30 mats on a hard floor, and the national finals used to be played that way as well.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it was interesting what Alex said in his interview earlier about a lot of the events he plays now are mat on mat, county, national, even the international stuff. So he's not, and even within Dorset, I think, they have their county roll-ups. I'm not sure what surface his club play at, but they just don't have that hard floor experience, as you just said about, when we were playing back in our youth, and it was all hard floor back then. And you're right. You just look at the winners who have won this event in the past. Benny twice, and Peter Roberts last year, but Tommy making the final. It's players who have been used to playing on hard floor events. Obviously, Mark Beattie's won there before, but as you say, it's that chance where other players will feel they have a better opportunity. And Alex was saying it's going to be a challenge for him because it's just not not what he's used to. So it'll be interesting to see how he copes and gets on with it. He's going to obviously look to change his bowls, as he said, because he's playing with Lignoids and will look to use an ace or something like that. And a lot of players will do that. I mean, Craig, you obviously too will change your bowls, but I'm looking forward to it.
It's interesting. I wouldn't do that, but you go back 20 years ago, I was playing with my swingy bowls over back then on the, but now it just seems crazy to even contemplate that. So I think you have to now. I don't think you can get away with playing with the real swingy bowls on there when everyone else is not. So
but like I say, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good tournament. Benny Shorgren's back playing, so some good groups, some good show mat games coming up, which we're going to announce later this week. So it will be another good tournament.
Scandinavian players last year, I'd imagine they'll do it again well this year, whether Swedish or Norwegian players. I'm sure there'll be a few players who have good runs.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, they've got a good amount of competitions. I mean, every weekend, I'm seeing competitions in Norway and in Sweden, so they are playing every weekend competitive bowls and on that type of floor and those mats. So that's certainly, you do not underestimate anybody over there at your peril. I would say.
And Simon's looking forward to the weather.
It's been obviously a very hot summer here, and weather's still pretty good. A few thunderstorms today, but we're still getting sort of mid-20s and dropping to about 19 at night. So, yeah, to come back to 5 degrees with lows of -2 is going to be interesting. And I thought it was bad in Belfast when it was about 13. Oh, dear.
We did get a fair bit of rain in Belfast,
We
I will
did.
say that.
Yeah, I almost forgot what that looked like. But, yeah, but we'll be in the bowls all for the majority of our time there. So, yeah, it'll be all right. Yeah.
Should be playing in gloves and a scarf.
Yeah, yeah, with me earmuffs on, mate, it'll be good.
No, yeah, we'll be looking forward to the Norwegian Open that kicks off next week. And you can stay tuned and keep an eye on all of the updates, live streams, and the live blog throughout the weekend, throughout our social and on our website, shortmatplayerstour.com. Just some info around all our events, unfortunately, are all full up. But if anyone does want to, is interested to play in any of them events for the rest of the season, and please do get in contact with us, and we can add you to the reserve lists. And if a space becomes available, we can let you know. And if you just email us either by info@shortmatplayerstour.com or contact us via our social media platforms. But it's been really, it's getting even tougher to enter events now. I think we're finding into ours. They go like wildfire, no matter what the event.
Yeah, I mean, our pairs and fours, it looks like that's going to be the first time we've filled both of those fully. And yeah, like you say, most of the events fill out within a couple of 3 hours. So, yeah, it's tough for everyone to enter. Unfortunately, if we could make it our full-time work, we'd have more competitions probably, or qualifiers and so on. But it is what it is at the moment. And I suppose we take it as a compliment that people enter our event so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, again, when we started out, we had no idea. I think our first event was 48 people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to get the sort of, consistently filling our events up, it's amazing. And when we open entries, it was staggering how quick they do fill up. But without diluting the event by expanding the field and making less games, there isn't a way for us, unfortunately, or going to bigger venues. But again, trying to find venues that would be big enough to hold the amount of mats that we use. I think it's a great position to be in. Don't get me wrong, but I appreciate there's some people that do miss out. But I do like to think that if people have missed out, they get on the reserve list. We do tend to get a fair amount of people who unfortunately can't make it for whatever reason when we lead up to an event, and we obviously try and get people in from the reserve list. So yeah, if you do want to play, even the events in the pairs and fours events, if you are still hopeful to try and get in that, let us know. I think we might have a 4 spot that will be going actually, so we might have an opportunity to play on a Saturday that weekend. But yeah, I think apart from that, as Mitchell said, we're full for the rest of the season. We are opening up our charity weekend in December for entry, so I'm sure that will be popular. And again, please do support that one at once for 2 good charities there for us. But yeah, no, it's very humble again that we sell out our events the way we do and as quick as we do. So thank you very much.
Oh, well, I think that's a wrap. I think we've sped through last season and this season at a canter, so we try to cover everything off. But it's been loads of content, and thank you both for joining. It's been another great episode.
No, cheers, Mitchell.
Yeah, thanks, Mitch, very much.
Yeah, we'll try and come up with some other. Have you got any topics out there that people would like to cover? One thing, actually, just as we were talking there about being cold and whatever, I was thinking about the coldest and maybe the hottest venues that people have played in, and maybe that's a topic for us to because I've got a few memories of certain venues and whatever. But yeah, certainly some different topics that we can try and do, and also what some of the top players do in terms of their training regimes as well. I've got a couple of examples for people I've been talking to about what they do again, so that might be an interesting one for people. Any tips they want to try and pick up for a future podcast.
Yeah, definitely, because we will try and do another one as soon as we possibly can, certainly before the end of the year. And we'll look to do them as regularly as we can and cover any topics you want us to cover. So please do get in touch. Anything you want us to talk about, or any topics, or any feedback, and we can discuss it on the podcast. Or if you want to come on, by all means, please do. And also, if anyone does want to sponsor the podcast or an episode or anything like that, then do get in touch with us, and we can look into that and discuss that. So thanks very much for joining. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you on the next episode of Behind the Fender Podcast. And we'll see you again on the next episode of Behind the Fender Podcast by the Short Map Players Tour. And don't forget to check out our website, shortmapplayerstour.com. If you have enjoyed the podcast, then please do like, subscribe and share so we can spread the word about the tour and short map bowls. And if you want to follow us for all the latest information, then you can find us on Facebook, Twitter at Short Map Players, Instagram Short Map Players Tour, and now on TikTok at Short Map Players Tour. If you're interested in getting a new shirt to play in our events, or a hoodie or fleece, then head over to bowlshredder.co.uk and type in SMPT into the product search to view our range for available clothing.